Alright, so in this video I want to go through the nuke hotkey so we can see firsthand what they do. Alright, so we're just going to start here and work our way through. Some of these I'm not going to spend too much time on because they're duplicates from other stuff. So cut, if I have a node I want to cut it, I can hit Control X. Copy is Control C, and then paste is Control V. So it's very much like you would see in Windows or Word or any of that stuff is Control C, Control X, and then Control V. Alt-C is duplicate, so basically like saves you the step of having to do both of these. It'll just duplicate that node. Now there is a difference between cloning and duplicating, which I want to show. So in here, let's say I have this node here, and I do duplicating Alt-C. You can see that it duplicates it, and it's all by itself. Now if I grab this and did the clone one, which is different, okay, so I'm going to hit Alt-K, you'll see that there's a bar or a branch that's connected to this, kind of like faded a bit. It's like a pinkish color. Now this means that these two are connected. There's also a tiny little C in the top left corner, and so that means it's a clone. So if I change one of these, it's going to change both of them. So in some cases, yes, I do want that to happen, but in something like this, probably not. Okay, so just be aware of where you're cloning, where you're duplicating, and where you're copying and pasting. Renaming a node is just N. So if you just hit N, then I can type the name right there. Quick way to do that, right? Control G is to group nodes, and then Control Return is to open the group nodes. So if I were to grab a couple nodes here and Control G, now I've, oops, didn't do anything. Didn't select them. There we go. Now I have them grouped. And if I want to open that, I just hit Control Return. Okay, and that'll open up that node, and then I can see what's all inside that. Okay, remember the groups allow us just to be a little bit more set up so that we can reuse stuff over and over again that we might have set up. At one point, there's no point in rebuilding the same thing over and over. D is for disabling nodes, so I'm just going to undo this thing here. So let me view what this looks like, and I want to see what this setup here would look like if I didn't have this one node. So if I just hit D, let me pick a better one so we can actually see what that looks like. I guess we'll go there. If I were just to grab something and hit D, I can see what the before and after is going to look like. Okay, just by clicking on that node and clicking D for disable, I can see what that node is going to look like. If I want to extract a node, Control Shift X. So let's say I don't want this merge in, let's say I add a grade. There we go. I don't want this grade in here anymore. So I could pull this off, reconnect the arrows, like so. Or I can just grab this and hit Control Shift X, and it'll just pop it out. Okay. Or if I drag it on top, it'll pop it back in. You'll find, again, another really, really helpful one. And swapping the inputs is just Shift X. If I grab this and hit Shift X, you'll see that the A and B swap. Oops. Okay, and in some cases, again, you may want those inputs swapped. Down here are some common nodes. So these are common things that you will use. Reading nodes, writing nodes. If I click off in here and hit R, it'll read a node in. If I click the number, I can preview it, so it connects it to the viewer. Okay, it's not one of those, but that's what it is. If I want to write something out, I can hit W, and that'll add a write node. So if I've read something, I've done stuff to it, then I would write it out. Color correct is C. So let's view this, and then I'll just hit C. And now that adds this color correction node, which allows me to go in and let's say, here's my shadow area. I want to adjust, just the shadowy areas. Okay. G is grade, so that allows us to add a grade node. Blurring, roto, merge, copy, transform, dot, and then view dots. Just the period key adds a dot, but if you hold Control, that will add the ability to drag dots off of existing shapes, okay, existing nodes. Nothing down there. These are traditional ones: new document, open document, save as document. Nuke is one of those softwares where if you do open up multiple documents, it'll just keep them open up in the background. So in your Nuke, you may have this one, but then you'll have another one opened as well. Exit the document, Control Q, so quitting, and then undo is Control Z, redo is Control Y, and then project settings is S. And then remember that if I'm up here and hit S, this is my viewer settings. If I'm down here and hit S, this is project settings. So pay attention to that as well. Playing forward is L, playing backwards is J. So if I hit L, there it is. If I hit J, it'll play backwards. If you hit K, that's just your stopper. It'll stop playing altogether. And again, they're all like right next to each other on the keyboard. Single frame forward is right arrow. So if I just want to see the next frame, you can use the right arrow or the left arrow to go back. If I use alt right arrow, it'll go to the next keyframe forward. If I use alt left, it goes to the back keyframe. Now this one's only going to the ends, so my animation is actually 18 to 132, so it's only going 18 to 132. Whoops. Okay, but if I had keyframes, it would jump between them. First frame of the sequence, you would go home. Last frame is end. So home, end. You can see how it jumps between those two. Overlay on or off. So if I go in here to, let's say, Roto, and I'm going to draw a shape. There we go. I may not want to see the overlay of this. I don't want to see that outline, so I can hit Q, and it'll basically just toggle that off. So now I can see it with the lines, now I can see it without the lines. And again, you'll see eventually where that comes in handy. Enabling region of interest is, let me delete this here. So anytime we do a change on something, it updates the entire thing, and depending on the size of our footage, that might be a few seconds to do. So if we enable our region of interest, that's what the ROI stands for, this puts up this little bar. And if I just drag these into a certain spot, that means basically it'll only update that area. So as I drag this, you can see how it's updating just that one area. And the idea with this is that it's quick enough that as we're working, we can update this area, see what it looks like, and then just turn it off when we're all done to see what the whole thing looks like. Okay. All the different viewports that we have. So tab up here will get you into your perspective view. Okay. And then you can switch to other views too. So if you were to accidentally hit C, X, Z, or Z, you'll see how it's toggling between all these other views here. Okay, so just something to be aware of. And you'll also notice that V is also the hotkey for 3D. To get back to 2D, just hit Tab. Okay. The next ones are RGB. So if I hit R, I hit G, I hit B, I can cycle between the different channels. Oops, come on. That are inside my animation. So right now I'm looking at just the red. Now I'm looking at the green. Now I'm looking at the blue. If I hit A, I can see the alpha channel. I just hit that letter again to get back to where I was. Okay. So red, green, blue, alpha. If you want to do zoom in here, you can use the alt middle mouse to zoom. And if you just want to move it left and right, alt right mouse lets you move it around. And then the last little bits. For Roto, control dragging to break the handlebars. So that's different than Illustrator or Photoshop where it's alt dragging. If I draw a shape here, and then I click on this, there's my handlebars. If I drag them, they can move together. But if I hold control, now they're separate. Okay, and then once they are broken, they're not going to reattach themselves. Okay, so something to utilize, obviously, when that comes in. Curve editor, adding points, control, alt, and left mouse button. So let's set some keyframes here. I'm going to scoot up a little bit. Let's move this. All right, so now we have a little animation of that. I'll go into the curve editor. It doesn't want to show me that. I should have known that it wouldn't let me do that. So I'm just going to create a transform node here. And I'll just move it from this side to that side. There we go. So now I go to the curve editor. Here's my stuff. So if I wanted to add a point, Control, Alt, and left mouse. There we go. And then I can adjust where that point is at. Or I can hit L for linear, or Z for smooth, or H for horizontal, or X for break. So if I wanted to hit X here, it'll break those two handlebars. If I hit H, then it flattens everything out versus being up like that. Okay, so those are your hotkeys. Again, they're not a definitive list. You will add more as you go. You can customize what your hotkeys are, but just use these throughout. Anytime you need a node, if it's in this list, utilize the list because you'll find it, again, a huge help versus trying to type in every single thing. All right? So cool, there's our hotkeys.